I'm Alan from the Reverie Group. This is our podcast.
Is it a podcast? I don't know, but I'm Andrew.
Well, how's the market?
Man, right? That's the question all real estate agents need to be prepared to answer at all times. Today, the market is struggling a little bit, I would say.
Yeah. We're in a 3-year moment because this one feels different than other ones.
Yeah.
We're in this 3-year moment where there's not a lot of motivation to buy or sell.
Yeah, sellers are a little detached from reality, right? There's kind of been a distortion coming from 19, 20, 21, where the market was like a rocket ship.
Yeah.
And every real estate agent was the best agent ever, right? Put it on the market, 50K over ask tomorrow.
Well, I mean, when was the last time you saw a post that said sold in 24 hours?
Right. Besides ours, I mean, not very often, you know.
Of course. That's hilarious. It's like we saw those every single day during that time. And I mean, I have some thoughts as to, kind of why the market is where it is and what's going on. Because you mentioned divorced from reality, right? Sellers are just separated from that.
Yeah.
Whose fault is that?
I don't blame sellers. Typically real estate appreciates 4 to 5 to 6% a year. That's the average over 100 years, right? Some years you're going to go up 7%. Some years you're going to go down 1% or 2%. 19, 20, 21, it was like a rocket ship. We started seeing this 30% appreciation in that short a time. It's not, unforgivable to be a little detached from the reality of, hey, my property actually might be worth 1% more this year. Mm-hmm. Not it kept going at 30%, which is really where some sellers think their price of property is today, is another year of 30% appreciation, when really it's kind of been flat since 2023.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the market overall, it's there's striation in the market. So look, I was having a conversation with somebody a couple of years ago, and I was like, look, if you live by a railroad track, back up to a busy street, corner lot with no backyard, sell it now.
Right. Even the C and D grade properties we're selling.
Yes, at B or A level prices. And now we're not seeing that, right? 41% of homes being listed right now are not getting across the finish line.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of the highest amounts in history. And I think if I'm doing a be honest, I think it's our industry's fault that that's occurring.
Tell me more about that.
Well, because look, over 80% of agents have not celebrated their 6th year anniversary in the business. So they don't know what a normal market even is like.
Right.
To them, normal is hyper acceleration, things moving really fast, multiple offers.
Easy.
Well, and cash.
Right.
Cash, came into the marketplace. If you didn't have it, you weren't going to win in that market. And then as the cash dried up, now all of a sudden we had high leverage financing come in. And there's some people right now that 21, 22, they bought, life changed, and now they can't sell for what they bought for.
Yeah, not to mention the folks that got in with an interest rate buy down, right? That was kind of big, right? As interest rates started to tick up, thinking, hey, in 24, in 25, interest rates are going to come down, and we haven't seen it, hasn't materialized. So they're paying more and more each year.
Yep. Well, and then they're getting squeezed at the grocery store, at the pump. They're getting squeezed for entertainment. I mean, I went out to dinner the other night, and it was like, if you don't have a $100 bill, you can't go out with your significant other.
My quick dinner last night was $50.
Well, you're a big human.
Thank you.
You probably consume quite a bit, but that's not abnormal. Lean into some historical data, some facts. We need to bring a conversation to the homeowner that allows them to be more educated in what's exactly happening, right? Because, and I had a conversation with somebody else that's in the industry just yesterday. And I said, have you considered showing what the house was worth in 2019 to a seller that's looking to sell in 2025?
Right.
Because that's a great story.
Right.
You're up.
Yeah, lots of equity. And that's part of the market right now too, right? Is that most people have equity in their homes. Sellers don't have to sell.
Yeah. Well, over 50% of people don't have a mortgage.
Right. That's half of the homes that could go on the market are free and clear.
Yeah.
Why would I sell and go get what's considered a high interest rate, loan right now in this marketplace?
Well, I could give you a few reasons
Well,
that could possibly be beneficial, but that's the
Right.
thing, right? And what we need to understand, we're dealing with people, is the connectivity between people and their mindset.
Right.
I mean, I was at barbecues in 2020, 2021, of course, masked up, socially distanced, and they were like, "Man, it's a great time to buy." Oh, I think it's a great time to buy. Let's go buy. Or we can sell, get what we want. We can buy with cheap money.
Sure.
You know, a lot of people shuffled around during that time.
Yep.
And now, you know, around the barbecues, like, oh, I heard it's a terrible time to buy. The market's not good. And I'm like, I see opportunity all over the place.
Sure. Well, yeah, and you hear that from both sides too. Sellers saying it's a bad time to sell. Well, if you're trying to sell for what your property is aspirationally worth, it is a bad time to sell because buyers aren't having that in this market, right? They're pickier, inventory's rising, they have more choices. So sellers are thinking like, oh, it's not a good time to sell, but home prices are at all-time high.
Right.
They're not, we didn't see a big drop off the cliff, right? We might be flat for this year, or maybe you're down 1% in a year. But if you bought in the last 5 years, chances are your home's worth a little bit more than you paid for it, unless you bought right at the peak of 21 or 22.
The sellers are getting the most upset is where they're losing the upper hand,
Right.
and they're not used to it.
Yeah, no one wants to lose, right?
Right.
People want to win.
Well, and if you think about it, every 7 years, right, you kind of 7, 11 years you turn over. A lot of the sellers now were buyers in an accelerated market where they didn't have
Sure.
a lot of choices
Right.
when it came to negotiating the deal.
Sure.
It was like, no, you're going to pay my price. I'm not going to fix anything.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the money to close, go borrow it from a friend. You're not getting it from me.
Right.
And now they're on the other side and they're sellers. And the buyers are like, hey, by the way,
Yeah.
I need help to buy down my rate. By
Closing
the way,
costs.
I need help with closing costs. Oh, and that AC is really old. As a matter of fact, my insurance person won't even insure it
Right.
unless the roof's done or this is fixed. So that'll be another 15.
Right.
And they're not enjoying that seat.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a, full blown buyer's market, at least here local to the Coachella
That's not
Valley.
what the numbers say.
But it's trending there from where we were, which was an absolute seller's market, right?
Sure.
Where it's put your house on the market, and in a day or two you've got multiple offers.
Well, when it comes to the market, right? A normal marketplace has a vendor, like somebody that has something to sell, and then the buyer could choose to buy anything. That's normal.
Right.
Whereas before it was like, I have something to sell, and all of you want my thing.
Right.
And that's just not where it's at.
Right. Well, and that's why it's a great time to be a buyer right now, right? You do have more choice. You do have more say in the transaction. Sellers that are serious and motivated.
Yes.
The I need to sell, not a I would sell, right? Those folks are asking for, bigger credits, bigger thing, and you're getting more help from the seller. It's a great time to be a buyer in this market. Even if you're looking at, interest rates are so high at 6.5%. If you look at the 30-year span, we're right in line with where we should be.
Sure.
2% was crazy low. 10% might seem a little high, but the average over the last 30 years is right around 6%.
Yep. Yeah, 6.5,
Right.
maybe high sixes. Well, and if you think about it, it is a great time to buy because you're getting the terms that you want.
Right.
You can keep cash and still acquire the property.
Right.
And then you can go hat in hand to the seller and go like, these interest rates are crazy.
Right.
I can't afford the payment unless you do this.
Right.
Right. I mean, I think if agents were, if they were studying the business, if they were really locked in, they'd be able to sit down with the seller and go, hey, this is kind of how this might play out. And if you're a seller right now that is then going to go around and buy, it's the sum of both of those transactions that
Right.
matter.
That's a big missing piece I see many agents aren't discussing, right? Most folks, when they sell, they're going to buy. So you're kind of
Over
getting off the
60%,
roller
yeah.
coaster, getting on the roller coaster at the same spot. So it's really a break even. You're not losing. You might lose a little bit, or it might feel like you're losing on the sell, but then you're going to go beat them up on the buy side.
Right.
Right. So, it's interesting the sentiment of the market is kind of separated from what we see when we look at the data of the market.
Well, if you look at it, do you have a 20-year vision or do you have a 2-month vision?
Right.
Because if you're doing something with a 20-year vision, everything tells me that that's going to be better in 20 years than it is today.
Well, I don't think we've ever seen a period longer than 10 years where real estate didn't appreciate. And you're talking about '07, '08, great financial crisis that really had to do with the housing market, not a stock market crash, but the housing market.
100%.
Even then, 8 years later, guess what? You're even. And if you held on past that another 8 years, guess what? You're killing it. You're up, 100% on your home. So it does get difficult if you're thinking with like the flipper mindset, but you're not a flipper. Right. Think of at least 5 years. Are you buying the home? You're going to make money on this thing, or are you getting stable payment, choices and freedom around what the home looks like, what you do with the home, right? Those are the things, equity, appreciation. Those are the things that build wealth over time in real estate. Right. The tax advantages are crazy. And so I think people forget about that and have started to kind of look at real estate as this transactional money-making scheme, and it doesn't work short-term under the normal circumstances. You and I invest in property. That's a different formula than my buyers are using, right? I'm penciling out, hey, will this rent for, what's the after repair value, things like that. A normal homeowner shouldn't be doing those things to factor in for the home they're purchasing. They should look at location, amenities, right? And the price and the budget for what they can afford.
How's that going to work for me long term overall?
Right.
As a place to live. Raise my family, create memories, all that stuff. And I think that our industry needs to learn that stuff. I think a lot of the people in our industry focus on how do I do the deal?
Right. How do I get paid is a lot of our industry.
And what if it was, how do I have a conversation with another person in my community to help line them up for success for the lifestyle they want to live?
Sure.
Right? How do I consult with them? Let's focus there. The deal comes together. I've never had a deal where it was counteroffer number 5. And had that get together. Right? When it's right, when it's a win-win, it's a match for both, that's when the deal comes together.
And it takes parties on both sides to be ready. I had a real tough deal where I was on both sides of it that recently closed. And at a certain point, I had to tell the buyer, who was really trying to beat up the seller and was doing really well. Getting a great deal, the nibbler, right?
Give me a little bit, take a little bit more.
Great deal. But, kind of discussing with him and, going through and just asking him these questions of, what looks like a win to you? Because you're winning, and on the other side of this transaction is another human. And at a certain point, it's not going to be your logic that's going to make them say okay to these, outlandish requests. It's emotion. And at a certain point, people feel like, hey, I'm just not taking that. And I'd rather delist my property. I'd rather just not sell it to you because I think you're a jerk or you're beating me up too much on the price. And so when both of the parties are ready and willing, that's when the deal comes together.
So that's how the market is.